Moore was the Republican candidate in the primaries to fill the Alabama Senate seat that was left vacant by Jeff Sessions. Now, Roy Moore is described as the so-called outsider, the so-called anti-establishment candidate in Alabama. But for some reason, anti-establishment has now turned into, oh, the most questionable person who hates the most groups of people. So I'll give you an example. So here's a little bit of historical context for you. Roy Moore was suspended twice from the Alabama Supreme Court, once in 2003 for refusing to remove a statue of the 10 Commandments he installed from the Alabama Judicial Building, public land, and again in 2016 over his instruction to probate judges to ignore the US Supreme Court's legalization of gay marriage. So again, suspended twice from the Alabama Supreme Court for his lawlessness, refusing to listen to the United States Supreme Court ruling in regard to same-sex marriage. He was also quoted recently as saying the following, well, to give you context of this discussion, he was arguing that there's too much division in the country and people need to work together. And then he said this: now we have blacks and whites fighting, reds and yellows fighting, Democrats and Republicans fighting, men and women fighting.
Those yellows.
Yeah, keeping it classy.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, this guy,
that quote wasn't from 1864,
this
right?
was from,
no, it was from like
this election cycle.
A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. So now I want to go to a video from back in 2005 where he was discussing the gay community with Bill Press. Take a look.
I think it's a yes or no. Do you think that homosexuality or homosexual conduct should be illegal today? That's a yes or no question.
Homosexual conduct should be illegal. Yes.
Should be illegal.
Yes.
That means that what two consenting adults do behind the privacy of their bedroom, closed bedroom door, should be illegal activity?
It is immoral. It is defined by the law as detestable. It was against the law in most states until the Supreme Court in Lawrence v. Texas said that it wasn't.
So homosexual conduct should be illegal as a musical theater fan.
Right. What counts as homosexual conduct?
What would happen to me?
We know what he means, right? He means sodomy.
I think he was pretty clear about it.
Yeah. So, which is, by the way, really you want like police officials to enforce that. You want them, knocking on people's doors to figure out whether or not they're having butt sex.
That's
or oral sex, like.
And that's how the first, that's how Bowers versus Hardwick, right? Bowers v. Hardwick. I think that's how it was. That's the crux of that case. And if I'm mistaken, you guys will point it out. But I say this a lot because some neighbor called because two guys were together in their own apartment. And a neighbor called to complain, and the cops came and entered the house, and that cop, like these cases fall apart if a cop won't do it. Like you didn't, maybe this guy did, but you didn't probably join a police force to arrest consenting adults from engaging in behavior which hurts no one. And
right.
But that cop did it, and so that filed the charges, and it was illegal in Georgia, and that set us off on the case that ultimately I think banned it, and I think Lawrence overturned it. So
that was also not in the 60s. That was in 2000. I think that was in 2000.
Oh, that was Roy Moore was 2005, right?
No, but I think Bowers Hardwick was in the 2000s.
I think it was 86, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it was anyway.
Turned in 2000.
Yeah.
So let's hear a little bit more from Roy Moore in regard to same-sex relations.
Yeah, please. I want to know.
We're not talking what your faith tells you, Roy Moore. We're talking about what this Constitution tells you.
Sure.
Show me where in the Constitution you would find any evidence at all for making homosexual conduct illegal.
You look through that Constitution and you find nothing about morality. You find nothing about marriage between a man and a woman. It was based on. Wait a minute. Let me finish. Morality is based on God. That's why you do not find it in the Constitution. Where do you think we get our morality? From some book of Hinduism or Islam? We get our morality from the Holy Bible upon which this nation was founded. There's nothing in the Constitution that authorizes that. The Constitution was based on the morality established in the Holy Scriptures.
Weird. I mean, I don't get my morality from the Bible or from any other religion. And there are tons of people who don't get their morality from it. And by the way, we are not ruled by any particular religion. In fact, if you value the Constitution, no religion is supposed to dictate our lives.
The throwaway line that he has in there that so many conservatives have in there is on which this nation was founded. They always say that. And when there is just overwhelming preponderance of the evidence is that it was not based on that. They literally talked about it,
right,
and then chose to go in the opposite direction. They split church and state. They couldn't have been more clear. You lost that battle, Roy Moore. All you guys lost that battle, and you lost it in 1789.
On Thomas Jefferson's gravestone, there were 3 different inscriptions, one of which is author of the Virginia Articles on Religious Freedom. So that's what they talked about. Like Ben said, it came up.
It came up, that's right. It came up in 1776 and then ratified in 1789.
So let's go to one final video where Moore does what some extreme conservatives do. He decides to compare homosexuality to something else.
Because it's done behind closed doors, it can still be prohibited by state law. Do you know that bestiality, the relationship between man and beast, is prohibited in every state? Do you know that?
Did I ask you about having sex with a cow?
No, you didn't. But
or a horse?
It's the same thing.
No, it's not the same. You mean homosexuality is the same thing as bestiality?
It is a moral precept upon which this country was founded.
So obviously comparing two consenting adults engaged in a same-sex relationship to bestiality is ridiculous, and we've gone over that a billion times. Anyone who disagrees is just crazy.
But look,
right?
he ends up making the conversation about the fact that we can, man, they're so clever. I mean, Roy Moore's not clever.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, in turning a conversation around is that he suggests that the conversation is really about, well, you said it's behind closed doors. We prevent lots of things behind closed doors. And he's right. We prevent bestiality. We also prevent murder behind closed doors.
He's actually wrong.
Rape.
He's actually wrong
kidnapping,
about
kidnapping,
Okay, yes, kidnapping and stuff, you're right. But when it comes to bestiality, he's completely wrong about that. We haven't outlawed in every state. To give you specific examples, and this is according to a Washington Post, an Associated Press piece that was written just a couple days ago. Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Kentucky, New Mexico, West Virginia, and Wyoming have not outlawed bestiality. But I'm just saying that to prove a point about how he's, in 2005, by the way, completely talking out of his ass, right? And comparing something like gay relationships, the LGBT community, to people who have sex with animals.
And let's remember what that is. I mean, that is a way to dehumanize gay people. I mean, it's not just a preposterous argument. It's a suggestion that by their very nature, the essence of who they are, gay people are not like us and they're not worthy of the same rights as us. It is as bad as it gets. It is no worse than using the N-word. It is exactly the same kind of thing. It is reducing the person whose behavior you object to, in this case, literally like that of an animal.
So you're absolutely right, and it's literally destroyed the lives of countless individuals who identified as gay or part of the LGBT community. During a post-game show recently, I shared the story of Oliver Sipple. I'm guessing you know who he is, Michael.
Tell me more.
So Oliver Sipple was a Marine. He was, a celebrated Marine who was gay, but he was celebrated when people didn't know he was gay. And he was the person responsible for saving Gerald Ford's life from an attempted assassination. And so he was great friends with Harvey Milk. This is back in 1975. And the woman who shot at Ford missed the first time and then attempted to shoot him again or shoot at him again.
Happened twice. This was the Sarah Jane Moore?
Yes, this is the Sarah Jane Moore assassination attempt. And Oliver Sipple prevented her from firing that second shot. And so all of a sudden he's in the headlines. Everyone wants to know who he is. This is amazing. He saved the president's life. And he happened to be very close friends with Harvey Milk. And Harvey Milk was a proponent of, pressuring gay individuals to come out to kind of normalize the gay community and let people know, like, they're not the pedophiles that you make them out to be. They're not these terrible people. They're great people. Could be your son, could be your daughter. And Harvey Milk essentially outed him. And Oliver Sippel's life was completely destroyed as a result of that. Didn't matter that he saved the president's life. Didn't matter that he was a celebrated Marine and he fought in Vietnam. None of that mattered, right? These stereotypes about the gay community were, so prevalent and very well believed by people that individuals like literally ruined his life. His parents disowned him. His father prevented him from going to his own mother's funeral. He died at the age of 47, alone in an apartment building with a bottle of Jack Daniels. No one even knew he was dead for 10 days. And so, look, the reason why I'm sharing that story is because the kind of rhetoric that you hear from despicable people like Roy Moore have ruined the lives of countless Americans, many of which were heroes, many of which have done incredible things for this country. And it's just a sad day when someone like that can be supported by people,
Yeah, no, it's true. And then also inevitably going to be welcomed by what we think of as sort of normal Republicans in Congress that will be his Senate colleagues should he win. And that's almost more upsetting because the people that are in places of responsibility to call him out for who he is have a responsibility to do that, and they don't generally do that. It would be interesting to see if somebody, when Roy Moore shows up at the Senate, and man, I hope it's Doug Jones that does, but if Roy Moore were to happen to win that race, walks into the Senate and a bunch of his Republican colleagues said, you're too, I can't deal with your type of rhetoric.
He's also blamed 9/11 on the fact that the United States doesn't support God enough. We're not Christian enough, and maybe it was retaliation by God. All sorts of craziness. And so, if you live in Alabama and you think that that type of rhetoric and that type of behavior is unacceptable, please, please, please go to the polls on December 12th and cast your vote for the right candidate.
And bring a friend. Bring people with you.
We can't support this kind of behavior.
If you like the Young Turks, you'll love Young Turks membership. TYTnetwork.com/join.